Every rep starts the same. Your limits are real, but so is your potential. New unrestricted power training gear from Lululemon, built with our most powerful fabric. Every push is supported, so you can drive through the hardest presses. Every squat and lift, unrestricted, flexing and stretching for max range of motion. In the gym, you don't know what you're truly capable of, yet. Get into unrestricted power and find out. Now online at Lululemon.com.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, more good news from those who love freedom in this world. 2 big hits by the Israelis against the Iranian regime, and they are biggies. Laranjani, who is head of the National Security Council, essentially the de facto leader there. He was the one who had a $10 million bounty on his head, and he was the guy who the supreme leader said, if something were to happen to me, this guy should essentially be running the country. And he was out there parading on Friday, out there publicly in Iran, shouting death to America, saying everything's fine, we're untouchable. The other one is this guy was the leader of the Basij group, which is right under the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And they're some of the worst of the worst. And in fact, he's one of the guys who ordered the takeout murder of tens of thousands of innocent civilians there in Iran. And these 2 people taken out by the Israeli strikes in the last few hours. This is enormous news. And listen to Professor Alan Dershowitz, because as he was talking with us earlier, he said the New York Times portrayed these monsters a little differently. Listen to this.
But look at what how the New York Times reports it. The New York Times reports it as a terrible thing because he was a pragmatist. He killed 32 or 36,000 Iranians. That's a pragmatist. He was murdering people all over the country. But the New York Times bemoans their killing because it will make it less likely that the United States can make a deal. That's such nonsense. Again, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's a different war from reading the Wall Street Journal. It's as if there were 2 wars being fought. One reported by the New York Times and the other reported by the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal is accurate. The New York Times is not.
I guess that is truly called alternate universe that we are living in. And what a sad testament. Anybody who would be minimizing the crimes that these 2 leaders who are now up there in hell, I'm not going to say they're in heaven, and it couldn't happen to 2 nicer guys. And by the way, as we're talking about bad individuals, there's no doubt that Hamas is a terrorist group. There's no doubt. They, Hezbollah, the Houthis, they are essentially the proxy groups of Iran, with Iran being the head of the snake and those who are individually being funded by Iran to wreak havoc and hell on this earth. And we've seen what Hezbollah's done to Israel, to America. We saw what Hamas did, of course, on October 7th and what it continues to do. These are the worst of the worst, and they're designated terrorist organizations. It's not a trick question. It's a very easy question. If somebody said, is Hamas a group of bad people? Yes, yes, and yes. But I guess for Mahmoud Khalil, and this is an important topic tonight on the Rita Cosby Show. I can't believe this guy. This is the guy who Zoran Mandani, who talked about the genocide today of Palestinians on St. Patrick's Day. How inappropriate is that? Well, Mahmoud Khalil is his buddy. He's the guy who's been hanging around him. Remember, he was hanging around him during the campaign. He's been saying he has a right to speak. It's First Amendment. He was with him when he won the election. He was with him on Inauguration Day. He's been hanging out with him, and clearly, and he had his iftar dinner with him. Remember, right after the 2 ISIS-inspired terrorists threw those bombs right near Gracie Mansion. Well, Mahmoud Khalil was at a big event. It's called South by Southwest. And this is a very sort of popular event that takes place every year. It's actually funded by a number of like big companies. It's usually not really a political event, or at least it's not supposed to be. And the Columbia University student leader of these pro-Hamas protests that frightened Israeli students spoke at that South by Southwest festival. Now, this festival, by the way, according to reports, it draws hundreds of thousands of attendees and online views, and it's sponsored by the likes of Sam's Club and Rivian. Is this what they wanted? So this guy is speaking. He becomes the speaker. Who picked him as the speaker? Somebody who belongs to these vile groups. And then he is asked, will you condemn Hamas? And you can't believe this guy. He says it's racist to ask a Palestinian to condemn Hamas. That's what he said. Take a listen to this exchange. It's making a lot of headlines.
So many Palestinian factions around me, but they were not interested in that as a whole. And as Baher said, it's very racist to ask a Palestinian this question just to validate their views, because they don't see them asking any Israeli or American politician about condemning all the killing that's happening, whether in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Iran, anywhere. So that sort of like hypocrisy and double standards that's being used against us, I refuse to be part of that. And they would never answer such a question in just like a 20-second sound bite, just for them, to say, oh, he's like, we pushed him, he said that, we pushed him, he did not say that, and then he is Hamas sympathizer or whatever. Or the other part about justifying violence. Once again, you can never justify violence. You can never justify October 7, what happened after October 7. But to them, you can never contextualize October 7. But October 7 justifies everything after, which to me is again like that double standard. You have to be very consistent with your values, and that's what I care about, having consistent values, whether about Palestine, about Israelis, about whoever, just like that. But once again, these are all deliberate attempts to silence people, because it's easier for them to silence me than to actually engage in the conversation about what's happening. And that's what we're seeing now, especially when it comes to Israel's attempt to censor the First Amendment in this country. This is really what's happening, to censor any speech that can be remotely critical of the Israeli government.
Condemning Hamas is being critical of the Israeli government, and it's racist. Condemning Hamas for killing more than 1,000 people alone on October 7th, including, babies and others. I'm outraged tonight. I find this so disgusting that this guy is going to say it's racist to ask a Palestinian to condemn Hamas. No, it's not. It's an easy thing. If you don't like terror and you don't like violent murderers and rapists, then maybe it's easy to condemn them. I find his answer reprehensible. And here is Mark Thiessen. He was on Fox News earlier today, a contributor there, and this was his reaction.
So it's racist, apparently, to ask a person why they're not condemning a terrorist group.
Not only is it not racist to ask that question, if you can't answer that question and you're here and you're coming into our country, you should not be allowed to come into our country. If you cannot condemn terrorism, if you cannot condemn Hamas, then you should not be invited to come here, and certainly not to study at Columbia.
And Professor Alan Dershowitz agrees. These people should not be invited to this country. If you can't condemn Hamas, you can't condemn Hitler, you can condemn, the Ayatollah, you can condemn monsters living on this earth, whether past or present, you got a problem. And Alan Dershowitz also finds it absolutely disgusting that Zoran Mandani, the mayor of New York, he invited this guy, Mahmoud Khalil, to hang out with him at the mayor's house. Let's not forget that.
It's terrible. And look, Mamdani said, "Oh, I only invited him because I wanted to support his free speech." Look, I defended the Nazis in Skokie, Illinois. I didn't I didn't invite them to dinner. I was saying when I defended them, I wish they got run over by a bus. I was defending their free speech rights. And the idea of inviting this racist, this bigot, this anti-Semite to the Gracie Mansion is a disgrace to all citizens of New York, and it should be absolutely condemned. Look, while we're in the condemning mood, we should also be condemning this man, Kane, who just left his position.
Kent, Joe Kent.
Yeah, Kent, rather, because, this guy is a Nazi-loving bigot, anti-Semite, and he never should have been in the position of authority he was. He's hated Israel right from the beginning of time. He never, and he was a terrible intelligence guy. His critics have pointed out that he always skewed the intelligence against Israel and against American interests often as well. And he had his own agenda. And I'm glad he's gone. Good riddance to bad garbage. I don't think President Trump knew who he was when he got appointed, because he never would have appointed somebody with those views. But I'm glad he's gone. He was a terrible, terrible office holder.
And let's go to your calls, guys. A lot in there by Professor Alan Dershowitz. 1-800-848-9222. And you're listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 4. Go ahead, Joaquin. Your thoughts tonight.
Good evening, Rita. I actually want to begin this call by celebrating and thanking Ireland for taking Rosie O'Donnell off our hands.
That deserves a good Irish beer, right?
There you go. Yeah, nice green Irish beer. There you go. Or a Jameson. That's even better yet.
Yep.
If I was president of the United States, I would begin by deporting all of Dearborn. I think that's going to be my platform to run on.
So wait, I have a question. Would you start with the mayor or would you end with the mayor?
That's actually a good question. That's interesting. We should begin with the leader, I guess. The leader can lead the way out. There you go.
Exactly, because that mayor was like, the person's so sad because he lost his relatives, like it was Mother Teresa, and it turns out it's a Hezbollah commander. A little detail was left out.
Why is this guy even allowed to be in this country in the first place? I don't understand this. And, I really want to thank Professor Dershowitz for the way he just pointed out about Joe Kent, let's face it, unfortunately, yes, of course, obviously, people who go and fight for this country, they need to be put up on a pedestal. But, people enter the military for a variety of reasons, so there's always, in any communist takeover of any country, there's always the people in the military involved in something in one way or another, So,
and I feel, and Joaquin, I feel the same way. I absolutely respect Joe Kent's service. And he was the National Counterterrorism Center director. He's the guy who stepped down and said that Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation. And I'm sorry, I would trust the judgment of President Trump. I would trust the judgment of, Speaker Johnson, who's in the Gang of Eight. There are all these people who are in the room in a lot of these intel briefings, and many of them say he was not this guy. And he seems to be one of those people who doesn't think that you should ever step in. So I guess he thinks, Iran should get a weapon, and if they use it, maybe at that point you have a chance to respond. That it doesn't work that way, and we all know that, especially when you're dealing with an evil regime and nuclear weapons. And if you have a chance to take out an evil regime that you believe is a threat to us and planning an attack on us, which is what President Trump has repeatedly said, why would you ever wait? And he's had a history of making some anti-Semitic comments. According to reports, he made some comments, I think, back during Iraq. He blamed that like it was Israel that drove America there. I don't know where he gets that from. And then he claims that it's Israel that drove Trump, to go against Iran. And listen, Trump doesn't get pushed by anybody. Even the vice president could say, this is how I feel. And President Trump would probably say, great, thanks. I'm going to make my own decision. He's definitely his own man. So it's a preposterous notion, Joaquin. And I agree with you that, there are people that everybody has a right to their opinion. And I certainly respect Joe Kent's military service. I think his wife also died from a terrorist attack. So, I absolutely have respect for him and his background, but I don't respect what he had to say. I don't agree with it. And clearly a lot of people that were much more closely involved in the intel than he was don't agree with it either. Joaquin, do me a favor, though. I want to continue with you. We're going to a quick break.
Okay.
Stay with us, okay, because I always love hearing from you. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue with Joaquin and your calls after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's go back to Joaquin in Pennsylvania. Joaquin, take it away.
All right, Rita. So anyway, a real national security issue, as far as I'm concerned, that I would address would be the educational system. Okay, and a lot of what Robert brought to the table, his information, really leads into that. Because it's the educational system that's actually creating this anti-American sentiment. And Joe Concha, who was on before you, he had a survey of people, and he was asked, and these people were being asked, who do they have more in common with? Donald Trump supporter, and a person, who's pro-MAGA, or radical Muslim yelling Allahu Akbar. And these idiots are saying they have more in common with the radical Muslim and with the Palestinians than they do with a Trump supporter or with MAGA. Okay.
Now, are these young people or what was, I missed that, what he was saying, but is it a certain age group or not?
I believe they sounded young, and a lot of them were also gay, also LGBTQ, who would have been taking flying lessons, if they actually went with the radical Muslim.
Right. Well, and by the way, Joaquin, you probably heard because they had the El Quds Day protests, and some of them were women, some of them were gays for Allah, which, people can have their own sexual preference. I don't want to get into that. What I do want to get into is, like you said, they would have been thrown off a roof, if they had shown up there in Iran. I mean, these people are so ill-informed. And it goes back to something you and I talked about is who's paying for them, who's organizing this.
Right. Well, it's all done through the educational system, and it really goes back probably to the 50s. And I keep, talking about this Yuri Bezmenov, and, the defector was a KGB propaganda agent. And they explained how, the communists had planned to take this country over from the inside out. And that means taking over the educational system, entertainment and media and things like that. And that's what's happening in this country for young people. Robert brought up the age difference, as to the points of view of people between, who are over 40 and under 40.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think lived experiences. And I also think the age is some of it, but some of it is some of these universities. Remember, it's the professors and the presidents, too.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, some more military action taking place in the last few minutes. The U.S. military dropped a 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb, multiple ones, on an underground Iranian missile site near the Strait of Hormuz. That is a biggie. A massive 5,000-pound bunker buster bomb getting deep into the ground, obviously, because a lot of these Iranian missile sites are buried deep into the mountains near the Strait of Hormuz. So it does a couple things. Obviously, the intent is to stop these missiles that the Iranians are launching, not just on U.S. like embassies and other things, but also many of their Arab neighbors Iran is trying to hit and has gotten through with some of the drones and missiles. And then the other thing is also obviously to send a message because it's by the Strait of Hormuz. So the United States is saying, guess what? We're going to open up this waterway and Iran, you are not going to stop us and wreak chaos in the world's oil markets. And President Trump today, boy, did he come out swinging, you guys. saying that the EU and NATO, they have effectively become kaput, that they were offered to, hey, please join us. We've done all the heavy lifting. Can you maybe give us a mine-sweeping boat, or can you do something small? And suddenly, a lot of people were not available. And he said he will not forget how pathetic a lot of these people are. And he named Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, saying he's no Winston Churchill. Here is President Trump today.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated. They have no Air Force, no Navy. They have no radar. Their radar is entirely gone. Their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Everything is gone. Their leaders are gone. I guess one of their top person was, they say, a lot of people say their actual top was killed yesterday, along with somebody else who was responsible for the killing. The man that was responsible for the killing of 32,000 people over the last 2 weeks, he was in charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday. And all of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agreed that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing is, and I think, very important, we didn't have to be there for Ukraine. Biden chose to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. And I guess the head of Germany just made a statement that, they weren't involved and they have nothing to do with the war. But at the same time, they think we did a great thing by knocking them out. Nobody wants to have Iran, or anybody, but nobody wants to have Iran with a nuclear, because these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're vicious, violent. I mean, they killed, think of it, they killed, now I hear it's about 41,000 people. They put out a notice 2 days ago. Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
Nobody wants to help. They're complimenting. And that's the other thing. He also said that everybody's calling him and saying, hey, great job, but nobody wants to step up. The other key line that President Trump said is, we will not forget. And I don't blame him. Think about all the things. He brought up Ukraine. He brought up all the times where the U.S. has been there. And now he's asking for like a piddly whiddly boat. It's not like he's asking for the Sixth Fleet to come in. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, we've done the heavy lifting. If you guys can contribute a few things and we all do this together, we'll be able to open that waterway and block Iran. And yet they're like, it's not our war, not our problem, even though many of them get their oil through there. And many of them are obviously much more affected than the United States. But they want the United States, yet again, to do all the heavy lifting. What does that say? 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Dom in Minnesota on line 5. Go ahead, Dom.
Yeah, Rita, happy St. Patrick's Day.
You too. You forgot the genocide on the Palestinians like Mondani did.
Yeah. You know, Trump is a master manipulator of the TV screen. He made fools of the Democrats at his State of the Union, and now his NATO partners. I mean, he's really exposing these people as to what they are.
And Dom, what are they? I mean, they have no set of cojones.
Yep. And I think we probably a lot of people already guessed it, that they're not going to get into this war, especially France and Germany. But unfortunately, they're not. United States is NATO. Nobody else is. If United States pulled out, NATO would fall apart in a minute. That's the thing. This is the problem. We are the only people, supplying the power and strength to keep it up.
That's a great point.
Mainly, go ahead.
No, my thought was, Dom, that I feel like it's okay that America, and I'm just going to say it's an exceptional country. It's the leader of the free world. So I don't mind that we're leading the way. And obviously, I don't think President Trump does either. We're proud of our country. We have the capability to lead the way. And it's like when America leads, the rest of the world usually follows suit. So I have no problem with us doing that, leading the way, or maybe contributing a little more than our fair share because we have the ability and the might and the willpower and all that. On the other hand, you can't do 100% of it. It's us in Israel, and he's asking them to do 1%, and they won't even step up for 1%. What a bunch of hypocrites.
No, I think he was asking them just to expose them to the world. I think he knew the answer they would give him. He just wanted to bring it up to the rest of the world, rest of us to see, this is what's going on. We have been defending them for 50, 60 years, and they're not going to help you. And he probably knew that in his gut, and he just wanted that to be exposed to the rest of the world. He probably knew the answer.
I think so. No, I think you're right. I think he just wanted to test them and expose them for what he anticipated the answer is. Although, I'll tell you, I personally am surprised because I thought at least some of them would step up because it is a pivotal fight and because the U.S. has done such powerful, inroads into this war. So it's not like he's not like calling them and saying, hey, we're all going in on day one. And where he's not asking for ground troops, he's not asking for any of these things. So I don't think it was a big ask. So I actually thought maybe a contingency of like maybe 10 or 15 of these countries would donate a minesweeper, one would do this, one would do that. But no, they're going to cower and cry like little babies in the corner and then complain, when they need help from America. And Trump next time should go, I'm not really sure. Right? I mean, what do you think his answer is going to be next time when they come begging to him?
Well, here's the problem. Here's the challenge I see with that, because I think England used to be one of the best navies in the world, strongest navies in the world. Unfortunately, the Muslim population in England and France and to some extent Germany is reached a certain percentage, but they cannot afford to alienate the Muslims of the world. This is the challenge they're facing. And the United States is slowly creeping up to that. And Trump is seeing that and is saying, okay, fanaticism, Islam is not going to hold up in this country, and I have to do something about it. But basically, I called about, the issue with Iran. Do you have a minute to talk about it?
For you, go ahead. Very quickly. Go ahead.
So, because, the Iranian regime despises the UAE more than any other country in the region. Why? Because the UAE represents the exact opposite of what Iran claims a Muslim country should be. I have friends in the UAE and Dubai. I have been to these countries a few times. The UAE is a Muslim country, but it represents its religion, its culture, but at the same time has built a country that is safe, stable, and welcoming to all the cultures of the world. So UAE has become one of the safest places in the region, as far as I can see. So the real problem for the Iranian regime isn't the UAE religion, but It's amazing success. So that completely destroys the Iranian regime's narrative that it's a model of Islam that is only the true path of Muslims. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Iran
I hear what you're saying. You're right.
Yeah.
They're the traditional route. They're the regime with a strong fist, threatening even and killing their own peaceful protesters. And yet you walk the streets of UAE, and I've been to some of the Emirates also, Dom. And they're like, some of them look like Las Vegas. Dubai almost looks like Las Vegas, It's so commercialized, and you can sit on a cafe and you can hang out, and you don't feel prohibited in so many of those ways. And you're right. It's everything against what the Iranian regime, which is in the the archives world, Stone Age and stoning. It almost seems like a whole other planet, and it represents what they don't want. And also, they don't like the fact that the UAE has good relations with America. They resent that too. And that's why they've been targeting them and others, anybody who seems to be acquiescing with America or even allowing an American base on their territory. So that's why this is going to be, it's going to be a bit of back and forth. I don't think it's going to go longer than a few weeks. And then I think gas prices are going to come down, guys. And I think we'll find out hopefully in the next few days if the Supreme Leader's alive or dead. I'm curious on that one. That's another biggie, too. So we'll find out soon. Everybody, we're going to continue with your calls. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Las Vegas, Nevada, where a Korean War veteran who survived the front line and years as a prisoner of war has been recognized with a special award from the Republic of Korea. Veteran Gene Ramos received the Ambassador for Peace Medal. And he said he is so grateful. It's for commemorative given to veterans who served during the Korean War and recognizing their service and contributions to peace. He enlisted in the U.S. Army at the age of 17, and then he was shipped overseas and assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division in Korea. In 1951, he fought through the night using a .30 caliber machine gun and grenades before becoming seriously wounded. He was captured, and he endured a long, deadly march north as a POW, remaining in prison for more than 2 years until his liberation on August 28, 1953. Ramos returned stateside and continued his military service in the Army for 20 more years, including being deployed for 2 tours of the bloody Vietnam War, and then he retired in 1972. What a true hero. And I'm so glad that he was recognized for his great service. And of course, we love and appreciate you who participated in the Korean War, often referred to as the Forgotten War, and of course, the Vietnam War. Welcome home to you and your families, everybody. And America's heroes need your help, everyone. Donate just $11 a month. That's all it takes to make an incredible difference for veterans and their families. They deserve the best, and the best organization out there is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Be sure to check them out. They really do so much good for our American heroes. Check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, many of you awesome listeners feel like Ernie Anastos was a part of your family. I loved Ernie Anastos, and he was a legendary New York broadcaster, also a 77 WABC host, one of our colleagues and friends at WABC Radio, and he passed away last week at the age of 82. His personality was that of like a 40-year-old. We always called him Positively Ernie, named after his segments. I had the honor to know Ernie. Gosh, it goes back to the 90s when I was at Fox News, and I would toss to some woman named Rosanna and some guy named Ernie. And I remember running into Ernie after I was covering White House for many years. He's like, Rita Cosby, I'm the Ernie. And I fell in love with this man. And he became a good friend and one of the most amazing human beings that I have ever known. He was a broadcaster in New York for decades. He earned more than 30 Emmy Awards and nominations. And he was truly a gem and left us way too soon. So today was his funeral in Westchester, New York. And we talked about just how special this incredible man is over the last week, because it's been a gut punch to all of us at the WABC family. I loved Ernie. And we also talked with Rosanna Scotto, of course, of local Fox New York, Good Day New York star. And she co-anchored with Ernie, and she shared some memories of what made him so special. Mourning the loss of our dear friend, Ernie Anastos. And joining us now here on Katz and Cosby is the star of Good Day New York, also former Fox 5 New York co-anchor with our beloved Ernie, Rosanna Scotto. Rosanna, John and I are just in such shock. I can't even imagine how you felt. We'd lost an icon. We lost an incredible human being.
I have to say, Ernie was a friend. He was a mentor, somebody I looked up to. He was a good human being. You know, I called his mom, and I called his wife, Kelly, and I said to Kelly, I'm sorry, I'm lost for words right now, but I just want to tell you, you had a heck of a man. He was a good man. And, you know, Rita and John, you know, everybody's talking at Fox 5. Whether you were on camera, whether you were off camera, whether you did the maintenance for the building, whether you did the cleaning outside the building, everybody loved Ernie. Everybody had a story where Ernie made them feel good, valued. And that is such a gift that he always found the time to make somebody feel good.
Yeah, I mean, you can just feel he made everybody feel special, and that is a gift. Let's go to Eddie from Babylon, line 1. Eddie, we just have a few seconds, but your thoughts about Ernie Anastos first.
Seconds, Ernie Anastos. I don't say he reminds me of himself. He might be a Pisces, or like you. Rita, you're genuine. Ernie was genuine. And I got called out the other day, and I think John and Margot Katz the night who I met, and, you know, the jacket and everything, and the celebration. Ernie was a celebration of life.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Eddie, sorry, we're up against a hard break, but you're right. He embodied life, love, and happiness. We will miss you, Ernie Anastos.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?